Hi, good day, everyone. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are currently live in the breakout room with our guest today. He's a gentleman that has been in the world of life philosophy, dealing with many facets and assets of how we can live a better and improve lifestyle if we just search in the right places for the inspiration and the transformation that is necessary to so do. I welcome you and I thank you for joining us on this amazing program, The Breakout Room. As you know, our watchwords are health, happiness, and prosperity. And in all that we do, that is what we aspire to achieve and to share with you, our amazing audience, people, supporters, friends, and well wishers. Our guest, his name is Sanal Bhanu Rajan, and he is a spiritual thought leader originally from India, and he says he's been immersed in traditional spirituality and meditation for the entirety of his upbringing. And because of this, he's always been deeply interested in the inner workings of the mind. So, without further ado, let's introduce our guests on this second episode of 2024, The Breakout Room, Sahanal Bhanu Rajan. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Very good. Very good to have you in the studio and live in the breakout room. So, I want to begin by asking you a very important question, and I'm going straight to the top. There is a gentleman that says, and I quote, the best way to find yourself is by giving service to others. Are you familiar with that quote?
Mm, I'm not, but I get the gist of it.
I think it came from an individual whom I believe somehow, and I could be wrong, you could correct me if I'm wrong, would have created a spiritual and philosophical impact on your life. The late great Mahatma Gandhi. He said those words.
Mm.
Am I right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, what impact at all did he have on your upbringing as a young man, following his work, his philosophy, his teachings?
Um, Growing up, I mean, I grew up in the 1990s. I mean, I was born in the 1990s, so I wouldn't say I was deeply I influenced by the philosophies, or I read a lot of his work.
Mm-hmm.
I was primarily familiarized with the work in spirituality by spiritual masters from India. So in non works in non-duality. Um, so Ramana Maharshi, Papaji. So I'm familiar with different works, but not so much with the Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy so much. But I'm sure it would be of great impact.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. So, for the purpose of getting the information right to the people, this episode is entitled Shifting Your Consciousness for Impactful Change. And that is what we're going to share with our guest today. So, Sanal, tell us, where did your desire for creating this kind of lifestyle that you now have become accustomed to, where did it come from? Where was the time in your life that you discovered this is the lifestyle that you need to live? And this is the way in which you can give back to the world or contribute to the well being of society as a whole. How did that happen for you?
This is, I would say, the defining time was when I was in my early 20s, when I made a journey to Himalayas, and I met many masters there, and I spent time contemplating on life and on many of the life's bigger questions. Um, and coming back from there, I was really inspired by the environment or the ecosystem that was developed within the community there. And it just really inspired me to want to work in those realms. So I was like, okay, if I want to be working in any particular field, I would want to definitely be working in this particular spiritual um, field, and I wanted to really bring up something of a unique, my own signature on it. So I wanted to create something. So I went on like a journey on the last uh, decade or more, where I was spending time on developing a spiritual map, I would say, because we all work, come up with some map in our life, and through which we bear ourselves upon the world and create the kind of results that we find ourselves having in life. So for me, it was all about seeing, realizing that we do have a map or a model within us, and making a conscious um, participation in actively transforming and enriching this map through which I make sense of everything, make sense of my life situations, life in general, my uh, everything in life. Yeah. So it's for me, it was, it's not so much about the meditation, but it was, I kind of started seeing it as a map, and that just shifted everything because I stopped getting wedded to the map and seeing it for what it is, and seeing how useful the maps that I hold are when it comes to navigating through life situations. And that became for me spirituality, more about being able to harmonize, spiritually engage with life in life situations and create, co-create a good
Yeah.
result.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing, Sanal. I like the analogy that you took there with regards to the map scenario. And it reminded me of a great speech by the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a high school graduation, where he spoke intensively about the graduate's life being associated with a blueprint.
Mm.
And he told them that there were three things they needed to do in order to get the blueprint of their life sorted out in such a way that they would become successful. We could get into that a bit later on, but I want to ask you this. What kind of challenges from the ecosystems did you face when you decided in that moment that this is the direction in which you needed to go to? And how did you deal with those challenges? Was it from family, friends that you would have hung out with, or lifestyle around you? What were the challenges that you faced?
Well, first of all, it is challenging because starting off a career in spirituality is not something that is that's, I don't know, that is considered very,
Normal?
considered on a, yeah, on a nice light, I
Right,
guess, you know.
right.
Yeah, especially from the cultural setup I was coming from. It was
Hmm.
just a shock also. And then on top of that, I was uh, it's also about the fact of creating something, and
Yeah.
that doesn't always sit well in many circles because there's already established existing systems in
Mm-hmm.
place,
Mm-hmm.
and why is there need for a new system
Right.
to be created for it, right? So, and also there's times when you don't really see the whole picture. You know, you cannot see that because it's just like a, you just have to trust that the dots will connect uh,
Yes.
as you look back. You know, so it's kind of like that sort of a non-linear creation. So
Yeah.
I kind of picked up pieces of different stuff from all over the place along this journey, and
Mhm.
I mend it all up together to create something that has a life of its own, I would say at this point.
Yeah.
And then I just experimented it out, and I started teaching it in universities for 2 years, and I started seeing a lot of results, and I started working, sharing it with people on like a um, on a longer course of period of time, like 2 months, 3 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is really it's very different because it's not about practice and it's not about more practice, and it's about actually understanding how our mind works and knowing where is it that we can actually make a difference right now, you know. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, it's about actively participating or engaging with the mind to create, um, to change and to shift instead of passively trying to do something like doing some sort of special breathing and then you come to some calm or something like that. So it's about you are really engaging and participating with the mind. It's an active participation rather than a passive mode of, um, yeah, how the most of the approaches with the mind is very passive, you know,
Yeah.
in spirituality
Yeah.
primarily. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So, Sanhal, when you work with people on a one-on-one basis, what are some of the things that they struggle with that you have been able to help them with in terms of having that clearer mindset? And I would describe it as well as a heart set, where they would see opportunities rather than obstacles in their lives, in their careers, their relationships, and things like that. What are some of the things that they are
Okay.
challenged with that you can assist them and help them?
Yeah. One of the in my when I was doing this teaching this modality, this methodology with one of my um, clients who I was working with, she was dealing with a lot of pain, like a
Mm,
lot of physical pain. So she
yeah,
had rheumatoid arthritis, and she was diagnosed with it at a very early stage in
yeah,
her teenage years, and she was struggling with it for over the course of like 2 decades, close to,
yeah,
by the time I met her. So she was depressed for quite some time, a few years, and so she was doing meditation and all these things, you know. So it's not like there was no attempt to bring about transformation. Uh, but the thing is, it was for me the biggest shift with her was simply about changing the relationship that
ah,
she have with the pain,
okay,
because we human beings, we are relational creatures. We
mm-hmm,
relate to everything, and
right,
our relationship with something will shape our experience of being with it. So
okay,
what you cannot be with will not let you be. So just
mm,
like that. So if she cannot be with the pain will not let her be either.
okay,
So So it's about it's shifting. So it's about becoming aware about what kind of relating do I have to this pain, and to get a grips on that, and letting the mind look at that differently, you know,
Wow. Wow.
to be able to develop the cognitive flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
right, to be able to take different perceptual position and shift the relationship that you have with the pain. Because
Okay.
it's not the pain, it's about the way you relate to the pain that
Yeah.
creates most of the suffering.
Yes.
So I just kind of encourage her to refuse saying statements that are self-defeating when it comes to uh, how she articulate about the
Mm-hmm.
pain
Mm-hmm.
in general. So, and just say good things about it, or about how competent she is when it comes to handling pain with ease and grace. You know, so speaking about more about her competency and her capabilities in handling pain with ease and with grace, rather than more about how the pain is unbearable. I cannot
Right.
handle this pain, and how long.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So just like shifting this relationship, and just saying statements like I love I love handling my pain with ease and grace, for example. So you can build in further relationship again to the
Right.
fact of how you feel about the fact that you handle it with ease and grace and stuff. So just like playing around with
Mm-hmm.
these kind of statements and narratives around the pain for some days, and she noticed there was a big shift.
Okay.
There was a big shift because what we all have is we all have a semantic reaction to the words that we think, and also to the words that we speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important what you think and what you speak. We react to them. We
Okay.
react to those words. So
Yeah.
just by consciously upgrading the semantics that we use to describe our reality, we already can experience a big shift
Yeah. Wow.
in our experience of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing, Sanal. Is there some specific technique, mode of technique that you would use in terms of maybe meditation and so on to help people get that change of mindset that you are speaking about so that the perspective in which they see things becomes different, and instead of seeing themselves as a victim, they learn? Is there some specific technique, meditation, or something like that?
No, I would encourage everyone
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention to their speech,
Mm.
especially in their interpersonal relatings, like with
Okay.
others.
Yes.
So when they describe their, because we are storytellers, that's all we can do. So when we see someone, whatever we say essentially becomes a story.
Right.
So the stories that we are telling to others about ourselves, it matters a lot. So paying attention to the stories that we are telling, and noticing the ones that are self-defeating in nature, you know, that
Yes.
are, or the stories where you describe yourself as a victim in it,
Mm.
or as powerless in it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So just paying attention to the stories and not stopping it, but just letting it flow, and just actually taking note of it. And maybe when you are by yourself, just in front of the mirror, try on that story by yourself in front of the mirror. Say it out loud and see how you feel in your
Okay.
body as you
Okay.
say that story.
Right.
And actually taking that story and really looking at it, because you know the actual situation, and because the story is not the actual situation that
Okay.
unfolded, just
Okay.
the rendering of it, one
Mm.
way of render it.
Yes.
So now you are going to render that, make a different rendering out of that same situation. Instead of allying with your weakness inside that story, you're going to ally with your strengths that allowed you to handle that situation.
Yeah.
Because if there is one thing that we all have in common is that we have all handled it, whatever challenges or whatever through uh, life through to us, we have all handled it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now. So it's
Mm.
about how good you have handled it, or you probably can have some sort of an opinion regarding, oh yeah, I could have handled it better or something like that. But regardless, the fact remains that you have handled it. So you can look into that fact. How did I handle it? What were the things that I brought into the table that allowed me to handle? However, I have handled it,
Okay.
right? And where did I learn those things? So that's how you ally with your strengths. So what usually people do when they feel as a victim is when they are allying with the weakness, you know, or maybe, for example, they are focusing on the on the defeats, on the
Mm.
fact that, oh, look at me, I failed that again, or they can ally with the strengths, like the fact that I showed up again,
Yes.
even after all failures, I still showed up again. That takes courage, right? So you can ally with those strengths. So even from defeats, you can always pull out victories.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's the kind of attitude that you carry in life.
Right. Right. I would describe it as rising like a phoenix out of the ashes. Thank you so much for sharing, Sanal. I want to play something for you now, and I want you to tell us where it is coming from. I think you have mostly covered all that we would like to look at from the perspective of this particular video, but I'm going to play it
Mm.
anyhow to kind of emphasize what you were just saying. Let's see.
How you see is never how it is. Why do I say that? Because reality as it is undifferentiated. There is no experience you can have of it. So what happens instead, we differentiate the reality through distinctions. We separate it through concepts. So the concepts through which we are looking at reality acts like a lens through which you are looking at it. And the lens always modifies what you are looking at. So that's what's going on. How you see the situation is always modified by the concept through which you are looking at it. So your experience has everything to do with how you see rather than how it is.
Okay. I want you to emphasize that a little bit for us, Sanal, because I find it so deep, so resonating with me. And I believe that tremendous value lies within that kind of philosophy for people, especially considering the challenges we are facing in the world today.
Yeah, so that is one of my favorite um, topic actually. It's
Right?
about perception and the truth. It
Yes.
is something that I took from general semantics.
Mm-hmm.
So the analogy is the map is not the territory.
Mm-hmm.
So where the map is essentially the perception, and the territory stands for the truth or reality. You know. So what we get to have is a map of it. We don't get to have the territory in our hands. So the point is how useful the map that we have is. So the point is uh, how useful our perception is. rather than getting stuck with our perception.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually we get into this sort of a tunnel vision of mistaking our perception for the truth. So we get into this whole sort of a pipeline. How I see is how it is, or
Mm-hmm.
what I see is all there is to it. But there is always going to be more than what you see,
Yeah.
because perception itself is it is a reduction of lot of from the totality of information in order to create that very perception that
Yes.
we have. So it's just by some information that is previously not known, just coming into the light, our very perception always get modified.
Mm-hmm.
So the perception is always, it's not true. There's always going to be unknown things that we just don't take into account, or that we just no way have. It's just not possible to know the totality of everything and
Yes.
everything
Yes.
regarding the whole
Yes.
situation. And maybe just some information comes out, and our whole attitude towards a person just totally shifts just in a moments, passing. We one piece of information from their past comes to light, and everything changes. And so we are very familiar with it. So it's just like, and at this time, it's so relevant, it's so important for us to recognize that how we see is never how it is.
Yes. Yes. Indeed.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
That's
it's
deep.
about, okay,
Yeah.
what is it really creating?
Uh-huh.
It's more about how am I showing up
Yes.
when I see the way I see, and is this the way I want to show up?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of chasing after the truth,
Yeah.
you're never going to have the truth in your hands. Whatever you will end up having will be one way of looking at it, whatever it is.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. That's deep. Thank you for sharing, Sanu. You said that you found that most of the existing schools of thought are outdated and time consuming for people to truly pursue and get results. What exactly are you alluding to? How did you come to that conclusion?
okay. So most of the spiritual paths puts a
Mm-hmm.
lot of emphasis on truth,
Yeah.
on the truth.
Yeah.
And so, and truth is a very, for me, it's about escaping
Mm.
the, the escaping the truth path.
Okay.
Because time where the very experience that we find ourselves in, if you really look deep within, there is something that we believe to be the truth
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves and about the moment, about the world in that very particular moment. That's
Okay.
how we have an experience, you know. So if we get stuck with the truth, if you really believe there is a particular truth out there, and then now you don't have any flexibility with it, you know you don't have any flexibility. And if it is about relating to the truth, that's a very flexible thing, because you can relate to the truth in a variety of different ways,
Yes. Yes.
probably possibly infinitely different ways you can
Mm-hmm.
relate to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's about relating and how useful the relating is, now that's a very interesting direction. Looking at the utility of the way I relate to the truth.
Okay.
you know.
Great. Yes,
So,
yes.
so I am otherwise we can always look for chase after the truth, but that is a time consuming thing. And how do we really know? That is the absolute 100%, the totality of the whole truth, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Wow.
So this way you can start.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go out. You don't have to find the truth of anything. You know, it's all about relating, and you
Right.
can look at how useful it is. My relating. Am I able to show up at my best
Yeah.
the way I'm relating? You know, that
Right.
that becomes the essential questions rather than, oh, do I have the whole truth in my hands or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Are you
Yeah, we
in?
have the whole statement, truth shall set you free. But not really.
Yes, indeed. 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 Um, are you doing any publications with regards to the work that you're doing?
Right now, I actually have the website
Mm-hmm.
where my methodology and the people who I have worked with, their opinions, and more about the spiritual logic, um, this framework can be read about. So my website is spirituallogic.com.
I'm just gonna help you a little bit there by showing it on the
Yeah, yeah.
screen.
Yeah,
And
spirituallogic.com, and that's my handle in Facebook, in Instagram, in YouTube,
yeah,
also Wisdom with Sanal. And
okay.
also all the people who are watching the podcast right now, I have a gift for all of them. Uh, the website is podcastgiftnow.com.
Mm-hmm.
So so they can go in and they can put in their email and they have access to almost 9 hours of professionally recorded footage of me
Mm-hmm.
speaking about this methodology on different uh, topics of it.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So the yeah, podcastgiftnow.com.
Okay. Okay, great. So I want to play another video for you, and it has a lot to do with connections. So yeah.
Personal connections in our life. There are ways in which we upset ourselves, making a lot of inferences. Inferences versus information. Yeah. So in a social interaction, what people do is a cascade of inferences. They read into the situation. People unconsciously believe that they are mind readers. The problem is that when you make this kind of cascade of inferences, you end up going into a victim psychology and making things very personal. So what you can instead do is stay in the level of information and curiosity, meaning if someone makes a certain expression, instead of reading into it, simply they made that kind of an expression, I wonder what it means, and really be curious about it.
Yeah, well, I am very, very curious because you you truly define the great difference between inference and information. So how do we focus on the latter rather than the former, which could carry us down a rabbit hole, so to speak, and we miss the whole point of the communication or interconnection that we are supposed to have with anyone?
Yeah. So making a chain of inferences, it usually happens outside of consciousness and happens really fast. You know, that cascade of inferences, it happens outside of consciousness pretty fast. And we usually kind of end up being on the receiver's end of the reaction. So we kind of feel the reaction more than the inferences or the chains of inferences
Yeah.
being aware of or something, you know. So yeah. So to avoid that is to really That's more like an attitude that you cultivate within you, being able to stay on the level of information, like not reading into it, remembering that you are not a mind reader. You know that because
Yes.
usually
Yes.
it just occurs to us that we so what I teach to my students for this, there's a sensory based exercise that you can do to kind of retrain the retrain the brain and to kind of make that distinction of assumptions versus facts, you know. So what you can do is you can sit in a room and just look around and see what really captures your attention, and let your attention rest on that thing, and just make an assumption after you notice the surface of that, whatever you wherever your gaze is falling, and make an assessment on whether it's a rough or soft or smooth or something like that
Mm-hmm.
on the the surface of it, and then the the level of smoothness, not just simply guess or smooth or hard or rough or soft, not like that, but to also kind of, if you're saying smooth, also kind of like trying to predict the exact level of smoothness that you expect it to be, you know. And then after that, just go and actually touch that surface, you know, and see, make a assessment on based on your prediction and the fact of it. And usually, 99% of the case, there will be some difference. Yeah.
Okay.
So that teaches the brain the difference between assumption and fact. So doing this exercise for a few weeks will make the brain again, because the brain is a predicting machine, you know, and it predicts based on uh, the assumptions that is already in place. But if the assumptions are already wrong, then now all the predictions come out wrong. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is good to make predictions or to make assumptions, to
Yeah.
make informed assumptions. It's a good quality, but to also have the recognition that it is an assumption that we are making, however good it is very important. Otherwise, we are going to mistake the assumption for the fact and operate from there. You know. So we take the assumption for the fact, and now we respond as if like the assumption is the fact, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that happens in social interactions a lot, and we react to things that we are just simply assuming most of the time, and the assumptions lead to a chain of personalizing and victimhood, probably, you know, making things really, really personal happens.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just like really training yourself to stay on the level of information, if someone's making a certain face, just being like, oh, they made an expression like that. I wonder what it means, or I
Mm.
wonder why they did that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
being really curious about it.
Yeah.
So staying on the level of information and curiosity.
Yeah.
You know,
That.
being curious about
Yeah.
that information that you notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of being like, childlike in our approach, with that innocence and that level of curiosity, always wanting to find out more. And I think that helps so many ways for us to actually connect with truth, the truth that matters, rather than finding ourselves going in the wrong direction. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sanal. Do you have a particular mentor in your life, that individual who has this still sturdy foundational voice that when you are faced with challenges or making certain decisions, you seek their help, you seek their advice, and they help you to see things more clearly?
Now, for quite some time, I don't really have someone like that in my
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
For I I have been kind of on my own,
Uh-huh.
but still I had influences. Of course, I had influences. You know, my own family itself have I if any sort of decision making or anything is
Right, right.
concerned. I'm coming from India and from the cultural setup that we have. I I'm going to discuss it with my mom and my family, of course, and of course the decisions usually get influence from there mostly. Um,
Okay.
and of course, I do have mentors because in on many areas because I have been working with different fields of conversational hypnotherapy, of hypnosis, of NLP, and general semantics, and many areas. I do have mentors from where I have collected, acquired many skills and many ideologies and methodologies and everything. And I think all of the learnings, it just develops that richness in the map, and that kind of acts as the guide. So what essentially the map is it just the richness that we build onto the map. It essentially informs your intuition. So your intuition becomes better the better the map becomes, you
Okay.
know.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
do have some sort of intelligence, working through you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great, great. Wonderful, wonderful. So, are you currently mentoring anyone at this time? Do you see anyone who you think has that potential to do some of what you are doing currently and making a difference in the world? And you have taken them under your wings because you see the future shaping up through them, and maybe they can carry on with what you have started.
Yeah, I do have some people that I do see as people who are really drawn to these ideas that I'm sharing with them
Yes.
and would really like to share it with the world also. So
Yes.
I do see, because of course, it is this is an ongoing process, and I'm just one person, and
Hmm.
yeah, so it's about uh, all of everything that the whole methodology that I'm sharing. It's all about actually we becoming empowered through that stream of knowledge, so that we ourselves are in a place of being able to carry, continue that empowerment ourselves. Plus, we are equipped enough to empower others, so others we meet on the journey too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we have just about maybe 30 seconds or so before we end this episode, and it has been quite engaging and informative. But we just want to give Sanal again the opportunity to share his contact information and let people know what they can get when they make contact with you. One more time, tell them again.
What basically what I do is just I help people to harmoniously and gracefully engage with their life situations and build the kind of capabilities that is needed for essentially doing that and create the kind of results that they want to create in their life. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Thank you for sharing and thank you for being an amazing guest on this second episode of 2024 Breaking Out of Depression. So, folks, we have had Sanul Bhanu Rajan with us live in the breakout room, sharing his philosophy, his life story, and so many wonderful and amazing things that he's looking to do to help people become much more focused, heart set, and transform the way that they think, get rid of all the anomalies, and become more attuned to the reality of truth in their relationships, in their professions, in their lives, as the case might be. As we end this broadcast, we want to remind you again of the three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time, this is Andy together with my guest, Sanal, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless, Shalom, Namaste. Bye for now.